The catch is made by DJ Moore, still going across midfield, inside the 40, the 30.
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you believe? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. And welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, hosted by myself, Desmond Johnson, and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Skylar Callahan is extremely busy with the end of college basketball going on. Of course, he reports for West Virginia Athletics, as well as the beat writer for the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets for Sports Illustrated. So he may be in a little bit later on. Today's episode is a Respond React episode. We decided to wait until they got through the majority of these coaching hires, and it does appear that most of the main positions have been filled. We'll go through some of those hires, and we'll go through some of the audio from this past week. I do know Schuyler had been at Bank of America Stadium all this week. The Panthers were doing pressers for all of their new coaches. We've got audio from Deuce Staley. We've got audio from new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, senior assistant coach Jim Caldwell, and then the man himself, Frank Reich. So we've got plenty to dig through here. We've missed you guys. I was thinking about this, Stu. I've seen your face pretty much every Monday or Tuesday for like 4 months.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was weird not having a show at the beginning of the week. It was like,
yeah, I missed you too.
Yeah, man.
I miss you, dog.
So like, and the fans are pouring in here as well. I know that a lot of you guys are used to seeing us earlier on in the week. But we felt like it'd be better to let them go ahead and hire these guys, and then we could look at them all as a group. And then after that, then we can finally dig into the draft and some of this other stuff, free agency, things of that sort, because now we know kind of what's going on and who we've got in position, so we can kind of figure it out from there. Before we dig in any further, though, let's get a quick word in from our fellows over at over at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your #1 source for all your sports betting this season, everything from NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to BetOnline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your reward. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. And before I start digging into this audio real quick, Stu, give me your overall impression as these hires started coming in. I'm going to go look for a graphic here where we can pull up all of them while you're talking about it. But give me your perception of Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer and David Tepper and what they're doing with this staff.
I'm gonna just go to a quote that Frank Reich had mentioned on Wednesday about his hiring of Evero. The reason why we decided to go with it was because I was hiring the man, not the scheme. I was hiring the man. I was hiring the leader. That's what I was hiring. It wasn't as much about the scheme. He could coach any scheme he wanted. He's going to be good at it. That was my take on that. Everything that has transpired over the last month, like as far as this whole coaching process, it just feels so authentic and like a breath of fresh air. Like we're hiring guys not just based off of their abilities, but they're just good men. I feel like we're just getting a group of solid men within the organization. And at the end of the day, cards may fall where they may, but at least you got some good guys in the position that deserve it. And I think I'm always rooting for the good guys, and we got solid men in the building. And when you talk about, being leaders of men, that's all you want for your sports team, is to know that, you got guys that are going to be in the community, and giving their all on the field. And I think we got some solid guys in the coaching staff that's going to lead the way. And obviously, guys that have humility, that have been around the game for so long. I mean, the Super Bowl experiences alone on this coaching staff. I mean, like,
There's 10
again,
rings.
yeah,
10 rings on the staff. That's
I've
crazy.
said it before. If I'm a player, free agent, or a Panther from last year, I'm praying that night that I get an opportunity to be a Carolina Panther next year. So
That's that's an angle that we haven't even thought about yet in terms of free agency, guys wanting to come play here. Now, there's been pockets where we've had times where guys have wanted to come play here. Actually, probably most recently was probably 2015, 2016. A lot of guys like Roman Harper and Peanut Tillman, these old veteran guys came in and really kind of took that roster. Jared Allen, yeah, and took it to a different place. And a lot of it was because they were respecting the coaching staff that was in place, the things you guys were doing, and you were a team on the up and up, going from 2014 into 2015. And I feel like they could do the same thing here. I went and pulled up the coaching staff as it stands right now. Of course, Frank Reich, head coach, 30 years of NFL experience as a player and a coach since 2006. He was of course, the initial first starting quarterback in Panthers history during our first season in 95. Taking a look at the offensive staff now. You got Thomas Brown, the offensive coordinator that came over from the Rams. James Campen, who we retained, one of the best in the business on offensive line. Parks Frazier comes over as passing game coordinator. Sean Jefferson they hired last week to play to be wide receivers coach. Robert Kugler, assistant offensive line. John Lilly on tight ends. Josh McCown they hired. Stu, you mentioned him our last show. How good a friend you are with him as a quarterbacks coach, and Deuce Staley, assistant head coach and running backs. Defense, Ejiro Evero now is the defensive coordinator, came over from Denver. Dom Capers, familiar face, the first head coach in Panthers history, now senior defensive assistant. Jonathan Cooley on cornerbacks. D'Angelo Hall they hired last week. I was wondering how Steve Smith felt about the D'Angelo Hall hire there. Pretty interesting when I saw that pop up. Like, oh, okay. Assistant defensive back coach. Peter Hansen at linebackers. And then you got Tim Lukabu at outside linebackers, Todd Wash at defensive line, and Burt Watts. They don't even have a job for Burt. I don't know what Burt's doing, but he's on the staff. Chris Tabor, many consider probably maybe the best coach of special teams in the NFL right now, special teams coordinator. And then Jim Caldwell as a senior assistant, kind of helping oversee both offense and defense. I like how they have it structured where it's like you got Frank at the top, and then you've got Dom Capers as a senior defensive assistant. You've got Jim Caldwell as a senior assistant, and then you've got two guys underneath them that are actual offense and defensive coordinators that, to be honest, they may not be here very long. I mean, both of them, Evero went for this head coaching position. Like he was a hot name for that. The defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, same thing. He's not going to be here very long. These are guys in their mid 30s. And the Panthers, I love the fact, just look at the staff as I scroll through it. This is probably the most diverse coaching staff in the NFL. Just looking through the faces here.
Age, experience. I mean, you name it.
Ethnicity, everything.
Ethnicity, like being able to connect with players in a way that the players will respond and respect the coaching, and trust the coaching. Like, this is huge, man. Jim Caldwell, he's by himself. Like, I'm just like, hey, brother, hey, nice to meet you.
He came in with 2 rings. He got 2 rings for 2 different teams. He's coming in here like
I'm trying to soak up so much knowledge. I mean, not just even knowledge. Like, if I'm just thinking to myself, I'm a running back. I'm in the hallway. I passed Jim Caldwell, and I have a question just overall about football, a football question in general. It might be a defensive question. Like, Yo, Jim, got a question. Like, what's your take on, like, my zone read, from the defensive side of the ball or even the offensive side of the ball, whatever it is? If I have some question
Mhm.
about reading a 3 technique on the zone or reading a 5 technique on the zone, like asking him what his thought process is because he's been around the game for so long, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions like that to the coaching staff because of the experience that is there. Like, if I'm a player, like, my like appetite for learning and soaking up knowledge in this offseason is going to be at an all-time high.
Plus, keep in mind the Panthers might be top 5 in terms of youngest rosters in the league. I mean, they've been spending the past 2 years flipping this entire roster out. They cleared the whole defense out 2 years ago. It's mainly dudes on rookie contracts. So you've got a lot of 24, 25, 26-year-old guys that, like you said, are going to have a Jim Caldwell walking down the hallway, or are going to have a Dom Capers that's got like 80 years of NFL experience. It feels like he's forgotten more football than I'll ever know, and he's going to be wandering around the halls doing stuff. So we've got I clipped some audio from these guys. Starting off, all of this is courtesy of Carolina Panthers YouTube channel. All this week they've basically trotted out Frank Reich, all the different assistants, and I wanted us to get a vibe of how they sound. And for me, collectively, they all were saying the right things in terms of why they were here, and all of it basically, each one kind of led off that way with the, what made you decide to come to Carolina? Because again, a lot of these guys were up for head coaching gigs this past cycle, and 3 of them are on the Panthers staff now. So it's pretty crazy there. I'll start off with the head coach Frank Reich discussing the new coaching staff and ask basically how they went about putting this thing together.
Frank, you have 3 coaches on your staff who interviewed for head coaching jobs. 2 of them interviewed for the same job you have. I was just curious, what was the discussion like when you were kind of recruiting them, maybe pre-process or pre-hire?
Actually, no, really not any talk of that. I mean, I think in this profession, we all understand the business that we're in and how the process goes. So, again, going back to hiring men of good character and how we approach it as a head coach, sure, you're in charge, but it's really collaboration. So it's always about getting the best people into the fold. So we can get guys who are interviewing for head coaching jobs and get them on the staff. That's just a plus for us.
How come it was so important for you to bring in guys with so much experience, a couple guys with head coaching experience? What was your thinking behind all that?
Just a diversity of thought. Guys that have, with that kind of experience, have been in a bunch of different systems. They've been through the wars. They've been through the ups and downs. They've learned how to solve problems. They've learned how to work with players of all types, work through issues. It's a long season. Guys who know how to collaborate together. Work through issues as a staff, as a team, strong conviction, but no egos. I think experience brings that. And sometimes I think that's a little undervalued. Sometimes I think it gets a little undervalued, but really happy to have great experience on the staff.
We'll stop it right there. As we introduce the one and only Skylar Callahan in the house, who basically lived at Bank of America Stadium this week as the Panthers trotted out all these assistants all week long. Skylar, give us your take. I already asked Stu just the overall general view, looking down on this the staff that has been acquired now. I labeled this episode the one with the Panthers Avenger coaching staff, because it feels like they've picked all these guys from all across the area to go fight Thanos or somebody. Literally, they've put together this super team of coaches, and I was trying to remember another team that's done this before, and I can't really remember a team that's went out so aggressively and filled these positions with, you could consider, top 5 minds at each spot, pretty much. What are your thoughts on this, Schuyler?
I mean, it was exactly kind of what I thought it was going to be, but I think, I guess I shouldn't say that, because I was really impressed. Like, when you sit down and listen to these guys, they're very intelligent, very cerebral, and it's like you have an expectation of what you're going to get or what you're going to hear going into these things, but you really don't know until you sit down in front of them and talk and listen to what they have to say. And I mean, the resume, it only says so much, but like I said, when you sit there and listen, it kind of expands on everything about that person and who they are as a coach. And whether it was Dom Capers, who's been around the game for almost 40 years, or, Ajero Evero, who's, just been, this would be his second year as defensive coordinator, or some of these guys that are getting their start, like a Josh McCown or a D'Angelo Hall, like there's a very fine consistency with every single one of those guys, from the young guys to the old guys. They're high character and they're very intelligent. And I don't know that Frank Reich could have done a better job in finding the same qualities and traits in every single one of these coaches. And that's why I think this coaching staff is going to fit really well together. It's not because they have 30 years of experience here or 20 years of experience here. It's because they all have kind of the same vision and they're so intelligent. Like, I was blown away just listening to Thomas Brown and Ajero Evero talk. Like, it was completely different from the last few years. And that's no knock on the coordinators of years past, but it's just
All
to
right.
see
We
how
can do that over here. You can knock him if you need to. It's fine.
I mean, I don't want to trash on my guy Ben or anything, but I mean,
Yeah, Ben McAdoo, he's all right. He's a good guy.
it was really cool to kind of hear. You can hear some of that Sean McVay influence in Thomas Brown's voice and just kind of his thought process on how offense should be ran. And it's going to be fun because I think once he gets the keys to the offense, we're going to see things open up a little bit even more, because he's going to have more of that Sean McVay influence, where you're going to see a bunch of eye candy and stuff, and it's going to be really fun.
I'll put this out in existence before it actually happens. I feel like Robert Woods, who just got released from, was it Tennessee? I think he was at last, or
Yep.
he played for the Rams. Did he not? Keep an eye on him. Maybe landing in Carolina as a third wide receiver as we get into free agency and they start filling in these holes.
Melvin Gordon, I think, did he not play at Wisconsin while Thomas Brown was at Wisconsin?
I'd have to check that. Maybe.
That could be a third option at running back.
And that, and that's made me a lot more in the corner of Frank Reich as we go further and further away from the day he was actually hired, because as much as I love Steve Wilkes, and I'm so happy he's landed as a DC in San Francisco, that was like the best case scenario for him to land in that position, because that seems to be a stepping stone for DCs nowadays to get a head coaching job if you can do it in San Francisco with their talent there. But it feels like, I can't say for sure, but I don't know if Steve Wilkes could have compiled the staff. Like, I don't know if he could have got the same guys to come in and do this. And you're kind of seeing what the Panthers brass was saying about how Frank Reich won them over by in his interview. He came in with a game plan of what he wanted to do coaching staff wise. And I love the fact that the offense and defensive coordinators are in their mid 30s, but there's someone over top of them that's got 40 plus years of experience that they can kind of go to. They don't work for them, but they're like the best possible advisors you can have, with what you're trying to do.
And I think too, in my opinion, there's 4 future head coaches on this coaching staff.
Right.
I got Ajero Evero, Thomas Brown, Deuce Staley, and Josh McCown.
That's insane.
That's a lot of young, insane coaching talent.
Yeah. Jeez. So it's crazy as a Panther fan, a lifetime Panther fan. It's crazy for me to even be having these thoughts of like 35-point games. And
I mean, this is the cool thing
what I mean?
Having an owner that really wants to win badly, because he will do anything it takes to make sure that happens. And like he has said many times before, if there's no salary cap on coaching staffs, why not, put the big checks out there? And like Frank said before, it's not an open checkbook by any means, but I mean, you can go outbid people.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you're right. You can do that for coaching staffs, facilities, and he mentioned all that stuff. Like you can kind of make your team, better in the inches when it comes to like the where you're preparing, where you're practicing, who's coaching you. And you can do that with that money and not be hampered by a salary cap. So, and then like me and Stewart were saying before you popped in, the coaches that they've acquired, now they've got so much connection around the league. Players are going to want to come here and play for them. So now you've opened up this big barrel of free agency where it's like guys are going to look at what's going on over here and go, hey, that looks like a really good situation. Like, I want to go over there and play for them, play for Frank Reich. And it's like 7 dudes on this coaching staff that can say, hey, I've coached that guy. I've coached that guy. I've coached that guy. Like, he'd be a good fit. So it's crazy. I've got, we just heard from Frank Reich. Let's go over to Deuce, because I want to get your opinion on Deuce. Here's Stu coming in as the running backs coach. He basically discussed what led him to Carolina as well, and the grit of the team. Hold on, just because of course he was the running backs coach for Detroit last year when Detroit came in here on that day when it was like 2 degrees outside and we beat the brakes off of Detroit. So you got a chance to see Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard and our running back and our offensive line up close in Charlotte. This was Deuce talking about what he saw that day and the importance of finding a good quarterback to lead the team.
ESPN.com. Knowing Frank the way you do, what is he looking for in a quarterback since that's such a big void on this team right now?
Well, the thing is, Frank played the position. So, man, the first thing he'll tell you is, I'm not speaking for him, but I would guess, a leader. You're looking for a leader. You're looking for someone that can go in that locker room and help lead men. And as coaches, that what we have to do, of course, be leader of men. And you look for your quarterback to do similar things. So I would say that's number one.
At Philly and got to the Super Bowl and then brought in a veteran he had to because of necessity. So does it really matter to him, or can you get the same out of either side?
It's all about developing. You know, whoever walks through that door, we're going to develop them. So, and of course, we just kind of got here, so we hadn't really had a chance to press play yet. Kind of doing a lot of different things, so hadn't started the evaluation process. But I think it's the same throughout the whole league. It's all about developing.
Ellis Williams, Charlotte Observer. We just got done asking Thomas about his beliefs in red zone efficiency, what it takes. The first thing he said was running the football. Everywhere you've gone, as early as last year, Jamal Williams leading the league in rushing touchdowns, you've been able to have successful running teams. Why is that?
Run the ball, number one, no matter what. And then if you go back and look at some of the red zone touchdowns, and you look at the off-schedule plays, meaning you have a quarterback that scrambles and make plays, you know, and those are the good ones. So a lot of plays that are being called throughout the league, throughout history, doesn't always work. But you got to have a guy at quarterback that can make things happen. So my philosophy, of course, getting down there, running the ball, imposing your will, being able to take advantage of what the defense gives you. And that's a lot of our thought process within the building. So, and going back to last year, you saw, of course, that's what we did up there. So I don't think it's going to change.
Stu, what did you hear in that? Because there was a lot in there that he kind of, I wouldn't say revealed, but, well, yeah, he revealed a little bit about their philosophy going forward. What did you hear as a running back?
I mean, coming from a running back, you know, the last thing you just said there, you know, posing, you know, your will on a defense. So I'm definitely seeing, you know, a coaching staff that is committed to being physical. And, you know, but being leaders of men. Like, it's like music to my ears, right? Because I mean, they're committed to the process, like actually committed to the process is what I'm feeling. Like, and understanding there's a difference between having a process and understanding what that process actually looks like and
Right.
what that is, and having a plan for that. These are guys with proven track records that knows what it looks like. So when you hear, for a Panther fan, when you hear, you know, we're going to get a guy in here and develop him, they are committed to actually coaching. They're committed to the process of whoever it is that sits in that seat. I'm going to make him the best player possible. You know what I'm saying? And that's the coach's job.
Yeah.
You know, you're not looking at a guy and saying, I need you to be great tomorrow, you know, because that's not realistic. And unless you have a guy that's just out the gate great tomorrow. But those are a dime and a dozen. And so, and then, you know, the quarterback position, you know, his understanding even there, like, you need a guy that gets it, that understand, that knows how to rally the team. They're not looking for guys to just come in and just make all the plays. Like, this is a team building process. Going back to what Reich said earlier, collaboration. You know, this seems like a group of guys that knows how to collaborate strong convictions, not egos, right? And so being sure of what you're saying and holding it true to your heart, to where a guy that hears you talk and a guy that hears you explain things, they can trust it. Like it's just like, president of a company, president of the United States. Like if you hear a guy with strong convictions speaking to you, you can believe in that. You can run through a wall for that. So I feel like you're going to get consistency across the board with this whole coaching staff. That's sending the same messages, whether it's through special teams, whether it's through defense or offense. Be physical, know what your job is, and just show up. Like
it sounds too easy.
It sounds too easy, but that's where you're capable of simplifying the game in that way, because you have a staff that understands that it is simple. Like we've been there, we've all been there before, and it's going to be simple because we're not going to come in this building with egos. We're going to be open to collaboration, but we're also going to be very strong in our convictions.
You know how when and you would know this too, when an athlete talks about when the game gets slower for them, like the game is going really, really fast because you're still learning the book or whatever it might be, or you're a rookie, everything's all new. But then once the game starts to slow down, like you're able to really focus on your game and your technique, what you do. I feel like the coaching staff, this is like we said last week we weren't going to name his name anymore. So he who shall not be named, his coaching staff from previous, it felt like it was the game hadn't slowed down. Like they were still trying to figure it out on the fly. This coaching staff, and from what we've heard from so far, it sounds like the game has slowed down for all of them. Like
they're coming in with their philosophies.
Right.
They're coming in with their experience. They're coming in knowing what they're bringing to the table. Right. And so when you get guys that are experienced at that level and the confidence that they've experienced, like you can just get to work. You ain't got to figure nothing out as a coach. Like, hey, look, we're running 3-4. This is how we do it. We need this guy. We need another edge rusher. We need another D tackle. Like these are the type of guys we're looking for. Hey, guys, you're here. This is what you're gonna do. This is what I need you to do. If you can't do it, you're not gonna play. If you straight up, like, hey, running back, hold on to the ball, hit the gap. Like, you know what I'm saying? Read the 3 technique. If the 3 technique gives you this, go the other way. Like, ain't nothing to it. It's just simplify, right?
Do
like, hey,
job.
Offensive line, don't hold, don't reach, move your feet. Like I've been there before. We do this. This is what the running back needs you to be. This is the landmark, right? That I need you to be at, so the running back can make this read on this exact play, right? If we run an outside zone, I need you to be on that 8, and stay on that 8. Yeah. If you're on that 8, he can go either way. If you're on that 9, you're making him think that you got to cut it back. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole different mindset going into this thing because they're ready. The philosophy's there. And just like Coach Reich said, it doesn't matter what the scheme is. These guys, I believe, are just going to be able to do whatever it is that needs to be done. So,
and that's what I think too. Like Rule didn't have that success, and really a lot of college coaches that have made that jump to the NFL don't have that success because they have to figure out not only how to run things in the NFL, but they also have to figure out their players, figure out what fits best in the NFL, because the NFL game is completely different than college. We all know that. Yeah. Even though the offenses are still somewhat the same, there's a huge difference in terms of, checks at the line of scrimmage and what you see as a quarterback and all that other types of stuff. Like for a coach to make that jump, there's a lot to learn where, like Stu said, Frank comes in and they're just able to go because they've done it before. They've done it many years. All they've got to do is adjust their scheme to the players.
Exactly. I mean, a question for me or for y'all. If you're a college coach, wouldn't it be hard to get some veteran coaches to come and say, "Hey, yeah, I'll coach underneath you, college coach."
Yes, absolutely.
It just dawned on me, but like if I'm coming from college, I'm like, "Hey, Frank Reich, I need you to be my offensive coordinator." Hey Deuce, like I'm coming to coach. Can you be my assistant coach, head coach? Nah, brother, I'm more qualified than you.
Yeah, I think too with the previous coaching staff, it was almost a certain arrogance about it that football is football, like regardless of the level, and that they could just bring in the thing that actually, you know what? I didn't even think we were going to do this today, but
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
The thing that bothered me the most about the previous regime was that they kept bringing in dudes from like previous coaching stops, not guys that were actually really, really good, except for Hassan Reddick. But like usually, like it'd be like guys from Temple or guys from Baylor that like
Reddick was a Temple guy too.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Besides Hassan Reddick, because Reddick has shown that he is top notch in terms of like wish he was still here.
That boy is straight gasoline, boy.
He's legit, he's him. But the rest of the guys they brought in, and they've cleared a lot of those guys out. The Robbie Andersons Chosen Anderson, because he changed his name legally to Chosen this week. Isn't that Cam Newton's?
Really?
Yeah, he changed his name to Chosen.
So he went from Robbie with a Y to Robbie with an IE to Chosen.
Yep. we'll leave that there for everyone to process. But yeah, Stu ain't saying nothing.
I mean,
but no, I mean, all those guys came from those previous stops. It wasn't like they were qualified to be here. It was like more of a comfort zone to be here, and I think they kind of took advantage of that in terms of maybe getting some concessions they normally wouldn't have got as players because they were familiar with these coaches from college. With this, the buck stops with the coaching staff and Frank Reich, like the responsibility, getting these guys in the right spots. I wanted to ask you, Schuyler, because you were in the room with Deuce, if I'm not mistaken. We have open mailbag, of course, every time we're on. Josh mentioned Deuce had probably the best press conference I've heard. I was super impressed with him. What was your thoughts listening to Deuce? And you said some of these other guys, we're going to get to Thomas Brown and Jim Caldwell here in just a bit, but your thoughts just listening to Deuce Staley at the press conference yesterday.
I mean, he had total command of everything. It looked like a dude that has been there and done that, bought that T-shirt 50 times over. Like he knows what he's doing and has conviction with it. And he talked about that with Thomas Brown and how he kind of won over him and Frank in the interview process. Well, I mean, hell, I think he had strong conviction himself. And I think when you just listen to him talk, you hear a future NFL head coach. Like, and that's why I heard the constant theme. Like, we had Jim Caldwell on Monday right after Frank. And some of the things that I heard from Jim, now he and Deuce weren't saying necessarily the same things, but just how they were answering certain questions. I'm like, damn, that sounds a lot like Jim Caldwell. And I'm like, if you just give Deuce Staley a couple more years, I honestly think he's going to be a head coach. And I'll just put this out there too. What's Frank Reich? 61, 62, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
I would not be shocked if one of these guys that's on staff would end up coming back around and circling back and being a head coach here after Frank's done. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Maybe it's Deuce. Maybe Deuce moves on, becomes a coordinator at some point, and then he comes back and becomes a head coach. I really think that. I love Deuce Staley, and I think, Stu, I mean, I'm sure this is probably a guy that when he says he wants you to run through a wall with him, I mean, I get that feeling right there, and I'm just a guy in the media. Like,
yeah, I felt that too, listening to him. He sounds like a future head coach for sure.
Yeah. Shoot, I'd play for him.
Yo, somebody was in the comments. Telling, here it is. Kevin Fakori says, Stu, you need to work on those hamstrings, get back in the league. We're going to the playoffs this year. So hey, it's only February, dog. You got a little time.
Yeah, I got some time this offseason to get back in shape, huh? Get back in football shape.
I mean, you could at least come back and be like a fullback or something, right?
Yeah. Red zone.
You ain't got to get 30. You ain't got to get all them touches.
Yeah.
All I need is some goal line carry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, get some red zone. Yeah, I love it,
man.
We're Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, brand new episode. We're going through the coach and staff hires of the Panthers, and just kind of looking down on it as proud fans that they've done this. Nothing's been done yet, but just the names they've assembled for this has been fantastic. Jim Caldwell Sr. assistant head coach of the Panthers, had his press conference right after Frank Reich earlier this week. I went and grabbed some video from him. Again, this is all video from Carolina Panthers YouTube channel.
Yeah, because it makes sense in a number of different reasons. And when you say outside of the relationship with Frank, I think that's one of the main reasons. A guy who I've worked with, who I know, he knows me, he knows my strengths are, he knows my weaknesses as well, and there are many. So that's a huge reason. But then also the organization, as you well know, I had an opportunity to visit with, Mr. Tepper and Scott and the rest of the crew that were doing the interview process, and felt a really good synergy there as well. So that was also part of it. But the location is great because of the fact that, we've been, most people probably don't know it, but even when we were in the National Football League, we kept our home here in North Carolina. So my kids all became fans. My kids are all around these areas, and my grandkids are around the area. So it makes a lot of sense in that regard. And plus, I'm excited about the team and certainly moving forward.
Real quick before I go back to Jim there, he echoed the same thing I was saying about Steve Wilkes and about Frank Reich, about connection to the community here. If I thought it was important, I feel like David Tepper recognized that was important too. And you look through the guys they have on this staff. Deuce Staley played at South Carolina, didn't he? He's from this area. Jim Caldwell coached at Wake Forest. He's lived here going on 15 plus years. His kids are here, like he said. Frank Reich's lived here for over 20 years. It's different coming in as an outsider and trying to apply your values of what you think the Carolina Panthers should be than it is for people who have been around the franchise off and on for 26, 27 years. And even if they didn't work here, or maybe they did the first go around in 95, that mentality to me hasn't changed. It's still the same philosophy, even it's a different owner. But the fan base and the players that have come before have set that standard. And it didn't make sense to me to just completely abandon that and go to something else. The roots are here. The roots were already here, like franchise-wise. You just needed guys that believed in it and to take it to another level. And I think that's what they've done with the staff.
Can I go on a rant for a second?
Yeah, you are. Are you?
I'll tell you why I'm mad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Dang, brother, how can you be mad after that press conference?
I'll tell you. This is why I'm mad, because guys like Jim Caldwell should be in a head coaching seat right now, and has not, and is a guy that should not have been out of a coaching role since 2019. Why? He's overly qualified. He clearly wants to keep coaching, and he said it in his press conference on Monday that he doesn't plan on being a head coach again. That to me is like, I don't know what the word is. Not catastrophic, but it's almost like
defeating.
Yeah. Because this man should not only be a position coach or a coordinator, he should be a freaking head coach. But this is the world we live in with the NFL, where we don't give guys that are minorities the opportunity to continue to do what they should be doing. I mean, Eric Bieniemy's the perfect example of that. He has to go and prove himself at Washington in a crap situation with a crap offense to prove that he's ready to be a head coach. Like, come on.
And I don't even think that's going to be enough. I don't think that'll be enough.
Like Joe Judge that were a special teams coordinator that never called plays that got head coaching jobs. Like but I guess my thing with all this is it's kind of impressive though for Carolina and for Frank Reich to go get a guy as qualified as Jim Caldwell to come in and take the role in the position that he's taking. That's hard to do. That's hard to find.
It's almost like they created the roles, like for Dom and for Caldwell, because it's almost at this point in their careers, I don't want to say it's insulting, but it's almost like a step down to make them the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator when they can do so much stuff. It's almost like they create these two special positions because those positions don't really exist on a lot of other teams.
I mean, I've tried to think of other scenarios in the NFL, and I just can't think of any. But it does remind me a little bit of like Pat Riley in the Heat, and like how he moved from the head coaching to whatever role he kind of had with the organization, but he still had a very big influence when he first retired from coaching on kind of the daily things with that roster.
That's a good comparison, actually, because I think he moved up into the president president slash GM, something like that. So he was basically over the roster and salary cap and things of that sort. But yeah, that's a really good comparison there. I was going to touch on the Eric Bieniemy stuff a little bit, but I think you said it all right there. I don't know why Bieniemy. There's something, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I do know that I want to it's a tightrope because I don't want to make it seem like just because he's African American he deserves to be a head coach, because that's not exactly it. But on the other hand, it's weird that he has led the top offense in the NFL to record-breaking numbers over the past 5 seasons and hasn't gotten a sniff really anywhere. As a head coach, he's interviewed for like 7-8 different positions or whatever, and just never made it to the finish line. And to have to leave Kansas City to go to DC, like you were just saying, with a vastly different offense, it's almost like they're setting them up to fail, because unless they go out and they have a gangbusters type of season, they're going to look at it like, oh well, it must have been Andy Reid calling these plays in Kansas City, because look at what's happening in Washington with Sam Howell or whatever.
Well, that's exactly what they're trying to say, right? They're trying to say, well, it wasn't him, it was Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, yeah, like we know who Andy Reid is, but like you got to give this guy that Andy Reid trusted, at least the trust factor that Andy Reid has in this guy to be in this position. You got to give this guy a chance here. Like, if he's underneath one of the best coaches, like arguably like in the National Football League history, right? Like, you got to give this guy a fair chance. Got to give him a fair look. Got to give him a fair opportunity.
Like, they're not even letting him fail.
You
Like,
know what I'm
they're
saying? An opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where, you know, Schuyler, that's why you mad. It's because of the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
When you have a resume and you present your resume and it says Super Bowl like on there, like that's
565 points.
You can't get any better.
Yeah, like you should be walking in the door, like and having options.
Just drop your rings on the table.
Like, hey, I got a couple rings here. What y'all need me to do with this?
Yo, that was the Pat Riley. That was Pat Riley's recruiting trick. LeBron James said basically the thing that got him when he met with the Heat to talk about going to the Heat, Pat Riley just came in the room, didn't say anything, and just put his rings on the table and just sat there across the table from him for like 5 minutes and didn't say anything.
That's what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, look, I'm tired of this.
Drop the rings down.
Don't give me the run around here.
I can make Stu mad real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead. What I need to be mad about?
Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers before he took the head coaching job at the Denver Broncos. Do you think Nathaniel Hackett called the plays in Green Bay, or was it LaFleur?
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, doggone well he didn't call no plays.
Clearly, look what happened in Denver. Like, if he was calling those plays,
Denver boy.
He made Adam Gase look amazing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Denver right quick. Let's talk about Russell.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
I'm gonna go a little different. I'm gonna go a different path here. I'm tired of people nitpicking Russell Wilson right now on every single matter. This whole thing of him asking for Pete Carroll to be fired and the GM to be fired, all that stuff. Man, you want to know what? Just about every quarterback in the National Football League history has asked that same question. At some point in their career, they looked at the coaching staff and said, he got to go. I'm tired of this man. I'm tired. Even if that wasn't true, you know what I'm saying? Like at some point in your day, you can be in a car. You can be in your car and you got a really nice car. But for some reason the gas tank is empty. It's like, dang, this car always got some I always gotta fill this car up. I need a new car. I need to get me like an electric car. I need to get an electric car, electric vehicle. You're gonna always be mad at some point about something that you shouldn't be mad about. Right? So if he said one day, I want Pete Carroll fired, well, hey, buddy, I don't know what to tell you. He's not getting fired. Let's not make this a scene or a huge big deal. Like, this stuff happens. Like, people say things all the time. Like, let's not. But what I'm trying to say is, like, we are too hard as it is on our black athletes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
And coaches. You know what I'm saying? We already have to go through leaps and bounds and hoops and do a bunch of tricks and backflips to be in position to succeed and to excel. Now, I'm not saying let's not hold guys to a certain standard. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not cut people's names. Let's not slander people and all those things. But Russell Wilson saying, man, I want coach to be fired. Like, if that was through frustration of a season or whatever it is, no one's going to know. Okay? So let's not blow smoke. Let's not light a gas. You know what I'm saying? Like, let it go.
I mean,
I'm tired.
Why did it take this long? If he did say it, why did it take over a full season?
People bored, man. They trying to tear this man down. That's why.
That's why I was like, I don't even think he said that. Because if he had, it came out immediately.
The Denver Broncos still sorry as heck. I don't care about Denver. I do actually want to talk to you. I can't wait to talk to the defensive coordinator about his time in Denver.
Oh.
I got a lot of questions there. If I was a reporter, Schuyler, I'd be in there asking, I'm like, hey man, what was all that going on with the offense last year in Denver, man? Y'all was thinking it up. What was going on? What was the real issue?
There's your first question for next presser, Schuyler.
I mean, I think if we're being honest, like, it's not even just in the NFL or in football in general, but like, you're going to be annoyed and agitated with the people you work with at some point in time. Like, you're never just going to always have this, great relationship with somebody. Like, at some point in time, you're going to get ticked off. You're going to get annoyed, whatever. I mean, Des is probably ticked off that I was 30 minutes late to the show.
Sure, I know y'all be mad, but I'd be like, hey, what time is it today?
No, we covered all that at the very beginning of the show. Like, man, that's a busy man over there. He's covering like 5 different teams, and I was like, he's around. I'll find him before we get off. So.
That man is the man coverage.
That's right.
Stu probably was ticked off at a coach or a teammate at some point in time too. But like you said, like you're not going to like throw names out there or anything like that. You're not going to make this big to do about it. Like, you're going to have that at some point in time, and I guarantee you. Well, I shouldn't say I guarantee it, but I'd be willing to bet that at some point in time throughout Stu's career, he probably didn't see eye to eye with his position coach or his coordinator or head coach.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably a lot of discussions that happened that was probably tense, if I just had to guess. But they probably worked it out.
Who did he tell? Like, did Sierra break this? Like, who would have told that he wanted them? Like, who else would have known and then sat on it for 12 months? And then when the season was over, like, oh, he wanted to get Pete Carroll fired. Like, it didn't make any sense to me, but I don't know. All I know in the end,
you know what?
All I know is snitches get stitches.
Is it just me, or does it seem like these guys, these high-profile names that have these camps or their teams, you know what I mean? Like, there's Team 3 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It almost seems like there's something coming out, positive or negative, and it's like blown to the masses because they want so much publicity. Where there's other guys that may do great charity work or do stuff in the community that doesn't get talked about, or maybe there's some small thing that happens, but it gets blown over because they don't have these teams or camps. These guys that have teams or camps, like, I think that's all they do is crave this publicity.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Russ, but his team or camp is the one.
So, like, all publicity is good publicity type of mindset, right. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. But in today's society, especially, too, it's all about clickbait, views, that kind of stuff. So you try to put out stuff. I see things all the time where it's like someone will put out like a title or whatever for the article, and it's so misleading to when you click it and you go in there, it has nothing to do with whatever it was the title was, and you're just like, they got me. You know, like it's like got type thing. It's like, how many times can I get somebody to click on this?
Guess what? Guess what Rihanna said to Tom Brady after the Super Bowl.
And then you get in the article and it's like she said hello or something like that, and you're just like, what? Like, I mean, literally, it just goes. It's all over the place. We did have one more video from Carolina Panthers press conferences from this past week. Shout out to everybody that stopped in to see us again. I know this was a little bit of a mini vacation we weren't on the beginning of the week. We wanted to get all of the different coaches a chance to speak so we could use that audio in this broadcast. I don't know when the next new one's going to be. Probably maybe early next week, midweek. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But if you need to plan ahead, subscribe to youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. When we do decide which one's going to be the new episode, it'll pop up and you can actually hit the button so that it'll pop up for you when we actually go live. This is new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown outlining basically his offensive philosophy for the team or for the offense.
It's funny because my interview started with identity-wise as far as the offense goes and philosophy-wise. So identity-wise, I kind of broke it down into 3 points. First is about being physical at all 11 positions. That for myself and this offensive staff is really kind of a non-negotiable when it comes to our approach, our attack to the game. Number 2 was a team that would not beat themselves. Because oftentimes, as we know, more games are lost than they are won. So turnovers, eliminating the penalties, and also doing a really good job of understanding how to have great clarity so we don't have misassignments on offense. And then lastly was about identifying on our offense the playmakers, right? Find, exploit, and win in matchups. That's kind of identity-wise. But philosophy-wise, what you asked me, I kind of break it down as far as number 1 is the ball is the issue. So taking great care of the football, that's the ball carriers, the offensive line being involved up front, the tailback from a play pass protection standpoint. Also receivers being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there as far as route distribution goes. Number 2 is everything starts up front. That physical mentality again, how we're kind of building upon what those guys did last year, camping that crew. Did a really good job of setting the tone mentality-wise, and everything kind of builds off of that system as far as the keepers, the play pass, and obviously the drop back game as well. Number 3 would end up being the losing of complexity. So marrying the run the pass, trying to create chaos for the defense while keeping it simple for us is a thought process that we have as an offensive staff. And then being able to do a really good job of pick and choose your spots to attack with tempo. So you got to earn the right to use tempo with early down efficiency. And finally, just that 5th point, it is situational masters. So 3rd down first, where it starts first with winning 1st and 2nd down, so you can be in 3rd and manageables. With 2 minutes into the half, into the game, as well as scoring points in the red zone, so touchdowns in the red zone, as well as game plan and forming offense.
Boy, he said a whole lot of good stuff in there, like a whole lot of good stuff.
Hater man.
Just give him his money.
We did.
I mean, he said all the stuff we've been wanting to hear coaches say for the past 3 years, like basic fundamental football. It's refreshing to hear it from a dude as young as he is, for starters. He sounds like a guy that's going to be a head coach in the next 2 years.
That's our timeline. That's our timeline, though. You got to think of the NFL timeline. He's got to prove himself. Remember, he's got to call play.
Yeah.
So we may have the fortunes of having him for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good point because I didn't clip that part, but Frank Reich did mention that in the beginning he was going to still call the plays, but that eventually it would get turned over to Thomas Brown. I don't know how that's going to work with Wright, Thomas Brown, Jim Caldwell, all kind of like there. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of hierarchy of like who does what, but I'd be curious to see when Brown takes over the play calling or how much Brown influences Reich's play calling. Maybe I should put it that way. What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't, if things are going well to start the year, I mean, I don't think they would change. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So that may be, if that's the case and things start out really good and say the team's like 5-2 through 7 games, I would say probably expect Frank to call plays all year and then maybe go into the offseason saying, all right, you're going to get the chance to run it in spring. When we get the preseason, you'll have it. And then if we like it, we'll run with you. So, but if maybe things are a little stagnant or it's just kind of middling, then maybe they do. But then again, do you really want to switch everything in the middle of the season while you're trying to figure things out? So to me, that's why I feel like if he doesn't have the confidence to give up the play calling before the season, I don't really know how you change during the middle of the season. Like, I mean, that's just me. I mean, maybe he does, but I think it's more of a 2024 thing than a 23 thing.
That would make some sense. And then plus, all of them sound the same page though, so it might not matter who's calling the plays. You know, like if the philosophy is the same top to bottom, both sides of the ball, all of them are saying the same things. They're going to run the football. They're going to play smart defense, turn the ball over, not turn it over on our side. All 11 men physical. Like they're all saying the same things pretty much, which is unique because usually you don't have a coaching staff where everybody is on the same page coming in like right off the top. That's the part to me that's the most appealing. Let me put it this way. Let me end it like this. Let me ask you this question. Did the Panthers go from one of the worst coaching staffs in the league to one of the best coaching staffs in the league in like a 45-day period? Because I'm having a hard time looking at this staff and going, this ain't a top 10 staff. Like this might be a top 5 staff, like in the league right now.
This is a top 2 staff to me, and they're not number 2. And I'm being bold with that.
I think they're number 1 staff in the National Football League staff. Now they got to get the roster. They got to put the roster together.
We'll get to that,
but we'll get to. We have off season to get to that, right? So, but this is the best staff in the National Football League out the gate, and everything that the OC just said, man, the ball is the issue. Man, put that on a piece of paper, put it on
t-shirt,
a t-shirt, on a car tag, a bumper sticker, whatever it is. The ball is the issue. Okay, be physical, right? The complexity, like simplicity, but complex. If that makes any sense, what he said. Like you're putting the defense in a complex situation by feeling the pressure through simplicity, which means they're going to figure out what they're good at and they're going to be really, really good at it. Okay. And so, and then the attention to details where he was saying, you know, the route running, that whole thing, guys need to be where they're going to be. If they're not there, you ain't getting the ball. Like the integrity piece to this, like guys are going to be held accountable. Like you got coaches. I mean, you got senior coaches with the OCs and the DCs. You got to answer to somebody. Okay. On Monday, when that film come on, answer. I need answers. Why weren't you there?
They have it set up where like if something goes wrong, the guy, whoever it was in that position, has someone above him he can look up to, not as a boss, but as a mentor. Like, hey, why did this not work?
Just checks and balances.
Yes,
like
checks and balances.
And so, like you as a it's just beautiful, from the custodian to the cook to the training staff. Like everyone's gonna know their role, and they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna cook this omelet like I ain't got no, like I'm like this is the last omelet I'm cooking today. I'm gonna take this trash out like this is the last trash I'm taking out today, because I know my job matters to the guy that I'm helping. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, all connected.
It's all connected because you trust and you believe in the guy that you're doing it for.
You know what I get out of the staff too is there's a very high level of accountability.
Yeah,
and I don't know that exists in this last staff.
No,
Steve was definitely a guy that held people accountable. I don't think
I think that might be one of the switching elements that took place through the season last year under Wilkes, was the accountability piece.
Yes, yes.
But now you're gonna have go from just having Steve to now you're gonna have Steve, or not Steve. Sorry, you're gonna have go from having Steve to having Deuce, Thomas Brown. You know, James Campen, I think, can holds people accountable. I mean, that entire staff, but especially on the offensive side, Deuce and Thomas, that those two combined, those dudes aren't going to let anything slide. They're
hey,
different approach.
You were supposed to pick up the wheel on that last play, huh? All right, I just making sure because you didn't pick him up.
You know, something that popped in my head that I've never thought would a Carolina Panthers team ever. I want to see this team on Hard Knocks like now because of this staff. Like I want to see them on the preseason Hard Knocks because usually it's like a bad it's like bad luck or whatever to be on Hard Knocks, isn't it? Usually you don't make the playoffs or something if you're on Hard Knocks or something to that effect.
And the Lions are pretty damn close this year.
Yeah,
they didn't make it, so we don't need Hard Knocks. Right?
And then they did the in-season one too. Was that the Cardinals they were doing it with? I can't remember which one it was, or the Colts. Somebody.
No, we need everything behind closed doors. We don't need nobody seeing what's going on with that.
But and then also too, and I'll end it with this. This is going to be the funnest free agent draft offseason that the Panthers have had for the fan base in a long time. Because once free agency opens up and they can start signing guys, we're going to just start getting names. Like they're just going to start peppering in positions of things that they needed to fill. And I think it's easier now because, again, these players are going to want to come play for Frank Reich or play for Deuce Staley or play for Jim Caldwell or whoever. They've played with them before maybe, or they know what they're going to bring to the table. And you got an owner in David Tepper who's the second richest in the league. Like the whole thing sets up where it's like, it doesn't sound crazy anymore to be like the Panthers can be a Super Bowl contender in the next, I don't know.
They're sleeping giant. I mean, they really are. The whole situation sets up perfectly for them with the division and everything. We've talked about it numerous times, but like, I think for Panthers fans, they really need to just sit back and enjoy this situation because of the rock star coaching staff that they have. They've got an owner who, although hasn't probably been the most popular within the fan base, he is a guy that is determined to win football games and win championships. And I think he's going to. And when you go into this offseason, we're looking at free agency starts here in a couple of weeks. I mean, you gotta feel excited because it's almost like Christmas where you know you're getting something good. You just have no idea what you're about to unwrap. And I think with this free agency, this draft, there's going to be a lot of really cool gifts this year.
We do need to address that too, the whole David Tepper versus the fan base thing, because I've been seeing people on Twitter basically saying, we strong-armed David Tepper into making the right decisions or whatever. No, you didn't. The man's worth $17 billion. He knew what he was going to do when he said he was going to do it. Like, he literally told us, this is what I want. I messed up. That was the first thing that got me respect for David Tepper, him admitting that he messed up hiring the previous regime and having the power structure set up the way it was.
Think about it. You had a first-time owner that really had never had that kind of control before, that had never had to figure it out. You had an owner trying to figure it out and a head coach trying to figure out how to do it at this level. And that's what the results were the last two plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got an owner that understands the mistakes he made, and you got one of the most experienced coaching staffs in the NFL, maybe the most experienced.
And nobody on the coaching staff, Frank Reich or whoever, has the same power as Scott Fitter. Like it's clearly established that Scott Fitter is running this show. Like he is hand in hand with Reich, helping him, pick these guys out. But even Reich's, he's deferring to Fitter when it comes to roster questions or what we're going to do in the draft or that kind of thing. It feels like it's David Tepper, Scott Fitterer, Frank Reich, and then you've got your assistants and everything else. And there's a clear hierarchy of like where the buck stops at. That's the accountability we hadn't had the past couple of years. And that's what gets me the most excited about this franchise going forward. Any last words, guys? Because honestly, with it being Friday, we might just come back next Friday because I don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of next week because free agency doesn't start for a couple of weeks. So we might just wait a week and come back at the end of next week. Any last thoughts?
Is Combine.
Oh, that's right.
So draft
underwear day, underwear week. We'll just watch dudes in underwear run around for a couple days and
get all excited
and project their Hall of Fame careers off of their 40-yard dash times. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to get to. We covered all the staff. That's really it. We got Combine coming, free agency coming.
Where Aaron Rodgers going?
Home? Nah, he's supposed to make $58 million. He ain't going home. Green Bay. He does this every year. He does this every year. Yeah, he's going to Green Bay. Like, who else going to put up with this? Like, every year, except for the Jets. The Jets probably would put up with it. But
watch Tampa come out of nowhere.
Oh no! Don't put that in existence because that.
because they said the other day that they were going to ride with
Trask.
Kyle Trask, yeah. And I was like, that don't sound right at all. That don't sound like what y'all are going to do. Like, why'd you even say that out loud? So Aaron Rodgers in the NFC.
That'd be messed up if they said that and they went and got Aaron Rodgers too.
That's exactly what they're going to do. What about Lamar Jackson? What about Lamar Jackson? Where is he going to be?
He'll be back in Baltimore. I don't see Lamar.
I mean, it's just weird. Like, they got to figure out a way though, because they offered him 130 mil. Now he wants 240 mil. That's a whole jump. That's a big jump, baby.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they ain't got that in their pockets. Then they got to figure it out.
I heard
start giving people away.
I think Stephen A. said on First Take today that he had a source inside the building that said that Lamar Jackson has not asked for a fully guaranteed contract. If that's the case, that's fine. But you're still asking for like Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers money, I assume, and he doesn't have an agent. So this could drag on forever. Like, I don't know for sure he's going to be back in Baltimore. And I don't know. I was on the Lamar Jackson to Carolina train like a couple weeks back. I'm off of it now. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to spend $190 million.
What if Baltimore and Green Bay do a little swappy swap?
What, Aaron Rodgers for Lamar Jackson?
That would look so weird.
That would be crazy.
I mean,
Lamar and Green Bay.
On the cash front, you kind of really.
It would be Aaron Rodgers is scheduled to make $58 million to play football next year. So this whole every day First Take, Get Up, all these morning shows, it's the same show. Is Aaron Rodgers going to play football? Is Aaron Rodgers going to play football? Didn't he want to not be compared to Brett Favre? Like, because this is the same thing Brett Favre did. Like, literally, he's following the same path.
I want to know what has anyone talked about. Has he talked about his 4-day retreat in the dark?
The darkness retreat. I saw pictures online. It looked like a.
I kind of want to do that.
Like a bed bath. It looked like an Airbnb kind of like, but like underneath a hill or something. But he had like electricity.
Go to sleep for a couple hours, a couple days.
You get a little light.
You know one place that I would love to see Lamar at? Tennessee. Him with Derrick Henry. And
don't say that.
Yeah,
don't you even put that in the universe. That's too dangerous.
That sounds like that's doable too. If he gets put out on the market, we've never seen a former MVP quarterback at the age that he's at in free agency. It just never happens. Like, teams don't let these guys go. That's why I'm like,
you just created a villain. You just created a villain duo, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that would be.
You ain't stopping that.
On RPO? Oh my God.
I'm more worried about him coming to the NFC South, like Atlanta, because I keep seeing him tied to Atlanta for some reason, and I don't know what Atlanta's doing.
Bruh, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, like, let him please be free.
Yeah.
I'm throwing the kitchen sink.
$300 million Lamar Jackson.
Come on down, sir. Hey, sorry, buddy, you gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta pack your bags up and go. You gotta get
It'll just be a two-man offense. It'll just be like, well, how do we stop this?
How do we stop these two? You can't.
Well, maybe next week we'll do quarterback musical chairs, because none of this is going to get resolved between now and next Friday. And you still Derek Carr still out there. His brother was former Carolina Panther quarterback. David Carr was saying it's going to be a long process. Is Derek Carr in the mix for Carolina? Because it sounded like they were. Some of the comments Deuce was saying in the clip that I had, he was kind of relaying what they want in a quarterback. It sounds like they want a mobile guy, like a guy that can scramble. When it's old school, I used to hate Russell Wilson. It'd be 3rd and 13. He's running around in the backfield, and then he just chucks one to Lockett or somebody for like 14 yards and moves the sticks. And you're just like, I can't believe they just converted that again. Like that kind of, not necessarily Lamar calling run plays for the quarterback, but more like Mahomes being able to elude defenders, play on your feet kind of guy. Because that seems to be where the league is going. Look at the Super Bowl we just had with the two quarterbacks in it. Like it's that thing. I don't know if any of these quarterbacks in this draft fit that, except for, Stroud, mate. Well, he didn't really play like that until
Levis Richardson are probably your best runners, but
yeah, Richardson and Levis.
Yeah,
I do not
Richardson
want
had
more
that
Levis.
little that pump fake that's been all over the internet. That was nice.
Yeah, we'll get into. So we got vet quarterbacks that are going to be out in free agency. We got quarterbacks that'll be in the draft because clearly they're going to do something at quarterback probably with this pick that they've got, or they're going to do something with it. I didn't even ask you guys if they should trade it to Chicago for Justin Fields. We'll just save that for next week and just put that.
And what we not going to do. I'm mad about this. Before we get off,
I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
What we not going to do for the remainder of my football talking life is compare anyone to Cam Newton.
Nah.
I'm tired of it. There's only one Cam Newton, and he's probably somewhere in Georgia right now, hanging out.
Thought I saw he's doing a 7-on-7 tournament or something, or
yeah.
building a team or something like that. Anthony Richardson is not Cam Newton. For those that want to compare
people, stop doing that. He's Cam Newton. Out the gate, we knew Cam Newton was special. Okay, so right now, everyone wants to compare people to him. If you got questions about that person that you compare, it ain't it. Okay,
Hey,
he's kind of like this. Nah, he's not.
Nah. He really
he's not.
I texted y'all my comparison for him. I'll share that next week.
Okay, there you go. So next week we're gonna get into the quarterback stuff. Then we'll talk. We'll start off with the potential rookie quarterbacks that are there, and then maybe the following week, because by then we'll be closer to free agency. We can talk the veteran quarterbacks are out there, figure out which one's a better move. Because I'm off and on Anthony Richardson. Like, I didn't realize he only completed like 53% of his passes last year or whatever at Florida. So, like, it comes and goes. It's weird when you see it on Twitter and you see a 10-second clip of him doing one play, but you don't get to see the other 58 plays that happened in that game that might have given you a different opinion of said quarterback.
I'll just give you a little cliffhanger for next week. When I texted the group my comparison for Anthony Richardson, Desmond's response was due. So just to let you know how that's going to go.
I got to go back in here now because I'm trying to remember who you said. Because yeah,
Bobby Wagner. I like Bobby Wagner on D. That would be a nice addition.
Put him up there with Shaq, and we got a lot to discuss because they're going to have to do something with Shaq probably. In terms of hopefully extending him so he can, stay. Some of these coaches have mentioned him by name that he would work well in this defense coming up. So that's there too. So we got a lot still to get to. I think we probably be back. Does this work better for you guys later in the week, right? Since we're in this part of the season, is it better to do this on a Thursday or Friday?
Typically.
Yeah. Stu, same for you? Better to do it kind of towards the end. So we'll just start doing them on Fridays here in the off season. And then as we get closer back to the season or whatever, we'll go back to our regular format we had before. But catch us, I guess, next Friday, probably be right around lunchtime like before, around 11:30. And go to BetOnline. Use that promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm Desmond Johnson. That's Skylar Callahan. That's Jonathan Stewart. This is the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. Keep at it.